It is a question very likely to be asked by a German client. Is it possible to run a large-scale, high-volume corporate website based upon WordPress? And all the WordPress insiders will go like, yes, for sure. Why shouldn't it be possible? So we took some time at WordCamp US and spoke to Tom Willmot. He's the CEO of HumanMade, which is, in my opinion, one of the more important agencies in the WordPress universe. We did ask him what it takes to use WordPress in the corporate environment for high-scale, high-demand websites. This time we are speaking to Tom. He's one of the co-founders and the CEO of HumanMade. You're working as a very large distributed WordPress specialized company in digital marketing. And so what is your first reaction when people ask you about, can WordPress do the job? Is it the right choice?
I mean, my first reaction is that like it's been proven that it can do that job for years now, right? Like some of the world's largest sites are running on WordPress. The Fortune 500, the Fortune 2000, like it's hugely popular even at that high end.
Yeah.
And so, like I think these days you can lean so heavily on examples that exist in the real world to answer that question that like you can just overwhelm the person who's asked it by just like, here's some New York Times stuff, here's like the biggest media organizations in the world, most of them are running WordPress.
Yeah.
Here's like banks that are running WordPress, here's airlines that are running WordPress, here's pharmaceutical companies that are running WordPress. So I think like the conversation's got a lot easier than it used to be. When we didn't have those examples behind us, and so we were having to like actually answer the question as to why people should take WordPress seriously, and it maybe was more of an underdog. I think these days WordPress is the lead, and yet we'll still act like it's the underdog. And I think
that's interesting. I think that's something that we could change in the community as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, talking about a conference like the WordCamp, is something missing content-wise here? Are there really enterprise talks that attract people?
No, I mean, it probably that the community, which I think has been its strength, has grown out of the grassroots.
Yeah.
And that's typically pretty disconnected from the C-level of enterprise.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that the solution really is that we should kind of corporatize the WordPress community in order to make it more attractive to these people. I feel like the larger trends in IT, like the consumerization of corporate IT, I think that trend plays in our favor, right? That actually enterprise are just becoming more open to iPhones and bring your own devices, and the marketing departments of enterprise now have far more power than say IT did in the past. And so I feel like that actually we should really tell the story of why the way we do things is the best way to do things, rather than feel like we need to kind of give that up.
Okay, but let me ask you very detailed. So now I'm a multi-million company running huge businesses. Everything's going well. And then you explained to me in this large project, a plugin for $300 is doing the job. I'm used to pay millions for my software.
I actually think that typically a plugin that costs $300 is not probably going to be able to do the job for a company of that size. And definitely we don't have much on the product side, like the kind of professional product ecosystem around WordPress definitely is like aimed at the lower ends of the market, I suppose. I think that the higher end is all consulting, really. Maybe WordPress VIP, a few of the hosts are targeting at that high end. And so I think as an enterprise, you're taking WordPress, maybe you're taking some enterprise hosting, and then you're really spending some money with a consulting house to build something. So I don't think the solution isn't that we need to convince them to use. Like, there are a handful of the very biggest plugins that are worth for sure. You should build on those, a WooCommerce or a Yoast SEO or something. But the idea that you can go to the WordPress plugin repository and pick a plugin and that if you're Microsoft, you should roll that out.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay, so to explain those best cases and usage, you've created some white papers.
Sure.
For example, one just on Gutenberg.
Yeah.
What are the topics that you try to explain there or dig deeper into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's really trying to tell the story of something like Gutenberg. We did one on some work we'd done with Capgemini to migrate them from Drupal to WordPress. I think a lot of this is actually the evidence is there, the features that these companies need are there, and we're just not doing a very good job of making them aware of it or showing them that this stuff exists.
Yeah.
The greatest success we have pitching those kinds of clients is when we can work directly with the people who are going to be using the software. You work with the editorial team, you work with the marketing department. Like what WordPress has got to offer, even just out of the box as vanilla WordPress, is already excellent. Yeah. Right? And that's really been WordPress's growth story in enterprise, right? There's somebody who works in the marketing department who maybe used WordPress somewhere else, and then they're like, oh, I wish I could use that at work. It's so much better than this old, clunky, rubbish thing we've got.
Okay, yeah.
And I think so all of the early WordPress builds we did, there was some internal WordPress evangelist at that client who had used WordPress somewhere else. My son's soccer league, I used WordPress. Yeah. And then I convinced someone in the marketing department to take a punt and use WordPress for this campaign site. And then that went well, and then we built on that. And now we're at the point where there are companies who are rolling WordPress out as their primary CMS globally. Yeah. And that's really exciting. I think that's the next frontier, actually.
I think that's a typical story of a lot of people, businesses to adopt it, like from...
Absolutely.
They were like, oh, my old CMS is so clunky, like I said, and...
Making a change costs tens of thousands and takes weeks. And, this small team with this handful of plugins, you can absolutely reuse a lot of the stuff in the community when you're throwing together a marketing site for a time-limited campaign or something,
So we're at the end of 2018. What is the big trend that you're looking forward to, or what you think people, if you want to be visionary, this is just ahead of the curve, around the curve, what would you tell people?
I see two really. Like Gutenberg is a huge trend. The work that's been done so far, I think is the... although that in itself seems like a huge deal, is a small part of where we're going to end up. And so I think there's going to be a lot of work to do to track that work and figure out how it's going to kind of integrate into the work we're doing with clients. Separate to that, I think within the enterprise CMS kind of digital experience platform conversation, there are parts of that currently WordPress doesn't have. Personalization, the kind of advent of machine learning and AI, and these smart features, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for WordPress one of its huge strengths for a long time has been its ability to just integrate with everything. But if you want to integrate it with this strange API job board or something, probably someone has written an integration to that, and you can reuse that. It's very difficult for someone like Adobe to compete with that. They can't write an integration for everything. Whereas the community can. And so I think figuring out how that kind of starts to include things like AI and machine learning and some of these kind of modern smart features, I think is going to be really interesting too.
Okay. And when this conference is over, you're going back to France. How is your regular work day? So you work remotely, I guess?
Remotely, so there's a little co-working space I live in a small French fishing town.
Oh, nice.
There's a little co-working space that I work in called Swenson House. I'll give them a shout out actually, because there's not many people there yet. So we're trying to get some more people to move to this town and hang out in this co-working space with us. I spend most of my time communicating with the rest of the team. We're about 70 plus, maybe 75 people now, all over the world, all the way from Tasmania and New Zealand on the one side to the Americas on the other. So I spend a lot of my time focused on the team and how we work together and are structured. I'm kind of fortunate now, I suppose, to have, that there are. I've managed to hire a bunch of people who are a lot better than I am at a lot of the work we do.
Yeah.
And so I miss that a little bit, but I think growing a company ultimately has become more rewarding than building a website. Even though I miss that.
Well. Sometimes you would like to go back. I get that totally. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Have a great conference. See you in France.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.